Good morning. I got a text message. I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I say it this way, and my brother loves when I say it like this. But I don't know if you noticed, but during worship, I was slapping the bass, right? And so as I was up here slapping the bass, I was playing, and I got a text of like, hey, they're having to put more chairs and tables out. So what a cool problem to have. So, sorry, we didn't know what to plan today. Today is New Year's Day. Happy New Year's. Right? How many of you were up until midnight partying hard? How many of you were in bed by 8:30? There we go. Love that. All of my kids raising their hand. That makes my heart so happy. I will say I was up at the church working a little bit last night, and I got home to be greeted with all over my driveway blue and white confetti. So I assumed that my kids had a good time celebrating New Year's before they went to bed, because look, they shot off a bunch of poppers out there and all that fun stuff. So, kids, are you in the house today? Okay, listen, kids, all the time I talk to your parents, and your parents, let me just be real straight with you for a second. Your parents are hyper boring, okay? And I'll say things like, hey, how we doing? And people are like, right? When I have kids in the room and I say, kids, are you in the house today? I expect to hear you. So, kids, are you in the house today? There we go. That's better. We're so glad to have you. So parents, just so you know, and everybody, every time that we have 5 Sundays in a month, we usually take the 5th Sunday and bring all the kids into the service. But we decided since today was a holiday and we didn't know what to expect and we were going to do some fun stuff anyways, we brought the kids in for the 1st Sunday. So this is our 5th Sunday, 1st Sunday, New Year's celebration. Now, you may be looking around the room and recognizing something, and I have had people come up to me impugning my integrity. Okay, we set up the room. We only had so many tablecloths, right? And so somebody, me, had to go to the Dollar Tree to get additional tablecloths, right? Now, some people have suggested that I went out of my way to get Bronco colors because of the Broncos and Chiefs games today. And I'm just going to ask you this. Does that seem like something I would do? Well, there you have it, I guess. I don't know if you also notice this here. You want to know another level of devious behavior here at the church? If you look back in the back, have you ever noticed that I always preach to an orange and blue backdrop? Let me tell you why that is. We're secretly and subliminally getting your kids to root for the Broncos. That's what we're doing. So just enjoy that. So anyways, today we're going to have church. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. We're going to enjoy having the kids in the room. If you're one of those people who gets on an airplane and gets mad at the kid who's crying, today you're not that person anymore. You smile at children and you say, we're so glad you're here. Because today we're going to be talking a lot about why our kids are here, why we're intent on bringing them in here, and what we're going to be doing in children's ministry. Kids, while I'm talking, you get bored, which would never happen because I'm so awesome and engaging. But if you get bored during the service, we have 2 things on your table. I would encourage you guys, especially you parents, to take a look at these. This one kind of explains a little bit more in detail. This is a take-home card that you can carry with you, but it's also on the back, blank, and a perfect spot to draw on if somebody needs to be able to have a little bit of something to do. But I want you guys to get familiar with some of these events that are coming up because we're going to be doing a bunch of cool kid stuff that I'm going to talk about at the end of the message, okay? So, today we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. Who made one? Nobody? Not a single one? How many of you actually made a New Year's resolution that you plan on keeping past today? Okay. How many of you didn't because you know that if you did, you'd have to actually change something about yourself? Yeah, that's fair enough. I will say we're talking about New Year's resolutions, and I wanted to kind of talk about this with the kids here because I thought it'd be a good exercise for families together too, to talk through of like what is something in your life that you can really improve on. And so today I want to take a second and consider what makes a good resolution. We're going to walk through these boxes, and I will tell you this. We're going to talk about a resolution that the church has this year that I'm going to ask, even if you didn't make one for yourself, I'm going to ask you to join and be a part of one that we set here at Aviator for 2023. Now, I'll say this. Sometimes you set a resolution. Sometimes you set a goal with the best of intentions, and you don't succeed? Has anybody ever in their entire life said, I'm going to do this thing, and then immediately failed at it? Anyone? Cool. Yeah, me too. You guys might recall this. Back in 2020, I stood up on the first Sunday in January of 2020, and I said, church, here's our goals for 2020. And I laid out some audacious goals, right? Goals about attendance and goals about connect groups and goals about all this big stuff we're going to do. And we had plans, baby. And then, I don't know if you remember in the before time, March 2020 was a weird month in which the entire world shut down, right? And the next year, I don't know if you recall this, we actually looked at those goals and we laughed at them, right? Because we had no idea what we were in store, or what was coming for us. And so you may set some resolutions, and you may get, Mike Tyson used to have a famous quote that says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? Everybody walks into a boxing match thinking they have a plan until they get hit once, and then it's like, well, maybe not, right? So sometimes you're going to set a resolution and you're just going to struggle with it. But today we're still going to look at them. We're going to talk about what they are, and we're going to look at one for the church. Everyone say, I'm excited. Very good. How many of you are really excited for the chili after church? 10 entries, guys. 10 entries. It's going to be awesome. So, what makes a good resolution? We're going to start by saying not what you would think. What makes a good resolution is not necessarily what you would think. We're going to look at a passage in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 10. Now, it's important to note this is not a passage specifically about setting New Year's resolutions. However, I think the principle that's here kind of holds true, and I want you guys to see what Paul has to say about his life right now. Oh, my mouse is in the way. That's going to bother me. There we go. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 10 says, so, Paul says, to keep me from becoming conceited or arrogant or full of myself, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations that God had given him, a thorn was given to me in my flesh. Full stop. Now, how many of you have something that's achy on you right this second? You're sitting here and you're like, oh, my back hurts, my knee hurts, whatever. If you're under the age of 20, put your hand down. Got one of my youth girls like, oh, you have no idea. I'm so sore. Yeah, tell me about it. 12-year-old. Anyways, kidding. I know you're not 12. It's fine. It's okay. I said that. You should have seen the look of just absolute pain in her face right there. Anyways, yeah. So essentially what Paul is saying is, in some degree, he's talking in this passage about kind of boasting and boasting in who God is and not boasting in who he is. And he's saying that essentially, kind of in order to keep him from having this boast, there was a thorn given me in the flesh. Something hurts Paul. We don't know what it is. It could be literally a thorn in his flesh for all we know. I doubt it, right? But there's something that Paul carries with him that causes him pain, that causes him discomfort. It may be a physical thing. It may be an emotional thing. It may be a spiritual thing, but something is hurting Paul. And so I want you to see how Paul talks to God about this thing that's hurting him. He says, this thing is a messenger of Satan sent to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. So, Paul has something that's hurting him, that is a struggle for him, that he sees as this terrible, awful thing in his life. And he does what he should do. He gets on his knees and he prays to God. He says, God, this thing is hurting me and I don't like it. Please take it away from me. Kids, how many of you have a sibling who sometimes maybe does things that hurt you? Anybody? How many of you have ever gone to your parents and said, Mom, Dad, please get this kid away from me? Anybody? Right? This is what Paul's doing. Something is hurting him so bad, and so he's going to God and he's saying, God, I have this thorn in my flesh. I can't stand it. Please take it away from me. So what do you think God's answer would be? Sure, right? Of course I'll take it away because I love you. And loving you means giving you anything that you want at any point in time, right? Kids, loving you means not making you eat your vegetables and letting you have Tootsie Rolls all the time, right? If your parents really loved you, they would just give you everything you asked for the second that you asked for it, and they would never tell you no. Because how could anybody who really loves you tell you no, right? Right, I like it. No, that's not the way love works. So let's look. But God said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in weakness. Listen to the rest. Therefore, I will boast, says Paul, all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I'm content with weakness, with insults, with hardships, with persecutions and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Kids, parents, actually, let's leave. I've been picking on the kids enough. Parents, how many of you love it when somebody insults your family? How many of you love it when somebody says, well, my kids would never act like that? How many of you love experiencing difficulty or hurtful words or calamities or awful things? See, what Paul is saying in this, and this is fascinating to me, and we're going to look at this kind of through the lens of setting an effective New Year's resolution, right? What Paul is saying is this: I don't want to be strong in myself. I don't want people to look at me and say, ooh, that Paul, he's so big and strong and fancy, right? Like, I don't want people to look at me and say, wow, Paul's an amazing guy. What Paul says is this: God answered my prayer, and what he made me recognize is that the best version of me is one that depends on God. God is my strength. I'm not my own strength. And so he says, for the sake of Christ, so that I might show other people who Jesus is, then I'm content with weakness and insults and hardships and persecutions and calamities. For when I am weak, then I'm strong. Now, I said this is not the way that we would think of a resolution or what makes. We are American. Everyone say America. Here in America, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Here in America, you make things happen because you're an American, and that's what Americans do. Can I get an amen? Right? In America, we take the bull by the horns, right? Right? We grab we make things happen. Things don't happen to us. We're strong. Is that a noise blower thing? Is there like a right? Here in America, we have a mindset that says, I'm the best when I am strong. But if you want to be a Christian, if you want to be a Christ follower, then what you have to recognize is we're at our best when Christ is strong for us. Every so often, this happens with every kid I've ever had. Right now, it's Boaz who does it the most, who's not paying a lick of attention to me right now, but he looks all cute in his Bronco hoodie. Yes, he does. Hi, Boaz. But anyways, right now, Boaz is the one who does this the most. But every kid I've ever had did it at some point in time. When they're about 2 years old and they're trying to figure out the ability to do something, right? And so it could be moving a rock. It could be moving the stool in the bathroom. It could be doing any one of these things. And Boaz, every so often, will walk over and he'll look at something and say, I want to pick this up and move it over here. And so he walks up to the thing. He assumes the position. He gets a really good squat because you lift with your legs, right? Not with your back. Even a 2-year-old understands that. And he'll get down there and he'll grab whatever thing it is that he wants to move and he'll go like this. And then he'll grab it again. And then he'll stand up with this like really pouty look on his face. And usually he looks for mom. But if mom's not there, then he'll look for me. And he'll look at me and he'll bend back over and he'll grab it and he'll just to show me one more time, Dad, I really can't move this. It's too heavy, right? And then he'll look at me and he'll go, help. Just like that. Not please. Not, Father, if you have a moment, could you please spare it and come give me some assistance? Homeboy looks at me and he goes, help, help, help. And I will walk up, and with one finger, because I'm swole like a beast, right? I'll pick up whatever thing it is, and I'll move it wherever he wants it, and I'll set it down. And he acts like he accomplished a thing. You know what I mean? He couldn't do it on his own. I come and do it for him, and then he's like, yeah, well, you saw that, right? I say jump, he says how high, right? But legitimately, what my 2-year-old understands is something that Paul understood and something that all of us, if we're Christ followers coming into a new year and setting new resolutions, something that we all need to learn. The reality is this: Boaz's strength is not limited to Boaz's strength. Because I love Boaz, because I care about Boaz, when he looks at me and he says, Daddy, help, I get up and I do the thing for him. See, Boaz understands that his strength is limited to his daddy, not to himself. And so as a Christian, Paul says, guess what? When I look at it, it's not about my ability to accomplish a thing. It's not about my ability to do something, because what can I do? I can look at the God of the universe, the all-powerful one, and say, help, help, help. And I can depend on my God to do a thing. And then when I let my God do a thing, I give him all the glory for it. And then you know what other people do? They look at that and they say, oh, that's pretty cool. I want some of that. And so what Paul recognized is it's not about being the one to make it happen and pull yourself up by your boots. You should try hard. You should work at things. You should strive for good things, recognizing that your power is not the one that's going to do it, but it's God. So if it's not what we think it is, what is a good resolution? Actually, I put 2 criteria. Everyone say 2. Number 1, it's something that brings honor to God and for which you depend on God for the strength to accomplish it. So you can't say, my resolution this year is to steal more toys from my siblings. Right? Or teenagers, my resolution this year is to sneak my parents' credit card so I can get more things on Amazon. Right? That's stealing, and that's bad. Don't do that, right? And so your first thing is your resolution needs to bring honor to God, something that you feel like you need to improve on, that you can work on, recognizing that ultimately it's up to God to help you accomplish it. I don't know if you can tell, but I've officially lost 40 pounds. Hey. I mean, thanks for the round of applause. I totally wasn't waiting for you until you did that. Absolutely. 40 pounds this week. Now, in fairness, to be fair, 10 of that was because last week I was sicker than a dog. But I'm counting it, guys. Now, here's the thing. Let me tell you about Dave's trips to the grocery store right now, because I'm doing a thing called no carbs. Kids, do you know what has carbs in it? Everything. Well, that's not true. Just all the good things. No candy, no cookies, no sweets, no real soda, no, like with all the chili that's happening, beans are carbs. Beans are carbs. Ridiculous, right? Can't have rice, can't have chips, no chips and salsa. Can you imagine a life with no chips and salsa? I can, because I'm living it right now, right? But by and large, I've gotten into the groove. I'm doing well with it. And then I'll go to the grocery store. There's a place in the grocery store where dreams are made. There's a place in the grocery store, and you know it before you get there because it tickles the hairs in your nose. And you don't even walk to this place in the grocery store. You literally just hold onto your cart to keep you from floating away too high, and you drift on a cloud like an angel to this place in the grocery store. This place in the grocery store is called the bakery. They make donuts in the bakery. They make cookies that there's a cookie on the bottom and then a bunch of frosting or icing and then another cookie on the top. It's a sandwich sent from the heavens above. You understand? And every so often now I walk through the grocery store. I float through the grocery store on a cloud, and I'll just walk through the bakery to torture myself. And I'll look at it, and there's been times where as I'm walking, something compels my right arm. And as I'm walking, I just reach over and like I don't even notice it happen, and then I look down and how did these cookies get in my basket? You know, the reality is, can I tell you the real truth here? Your pastor, who is trying really hard to do a thing right now, your pastor routinely prays when he's at the grocery store. You know that? And I'm being dead serious. God, give me the willpower that I absolutely do not have on my own. God, give me the strength to say no to the thing that is not good for what I'm trying to accomplish. Because here's what I recognize. God gave me this body, and I've not taken very good care of it. Now, I've put lots of calories in there to take care of it, but none of them were particularly healthy, right? And now I'm trying to be better in this. And the reality is, if it was just up to me, I don't think I could do it. But legitimately, I pray and I say, God, I need help to deal with my temptation. I need help to deal with my struggles. And God has been good and faithful as I have walked through this. So a good resolution is one that brings honor to God, that points other people to him, that he would be happy with you pursuing. So again, no stealing. And it's something for which you depend on God for the strength to accomplish it. Because Paul said it, it's not about me being strong. It's actually about me being weak and Christ being strong. So let's move forward. Look how fast we're going. How many of you love when the kids come here because Dave preaches faster? Anybody? Amen. Thank you, kids. You're doing a great job just being here. So, it's not what you think it is. We talked about what a resolution actually is. Now I want to talk to you about what Aviator is resolving to do this year, because you guys get to be a part of this. Now, kids, everybody look at me. If you're under the age of 12, look at me up here. Now, here in a minute, I'm going to need you to harness your powers for good, okay? Now let me explain what that means. Everybody, are you guys familiar when I say puppy dog face? Do you know what that is? It's like this. It's the face a puppy makes when they're hungry and just... Now, I need you to get ready, because in a minute, I'm going to use you to guilt all of the adults in the room. Okay? And so when I tell you, when I give you the secret word, okay, which is going to be go, I need you to look around and make your saddest puppy dog face at all of the adults in the room. Your parents, your friends, people you don't even know, just look at them and be really sad. I'll tell you when we get there, but stay tuned, okay? Because Aviator's resolution this year is really clear. You guys ready for it? Here we go. We resolve to grow our church through targeted outreach and evangelism in Aviator Kids. Everyone say Aviator Kids. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this has just happened kind of naturally. The way that Aviator has grown over the last couple of years is all of these children, right? The way that Aviator has grown is by bringing in a bunch of families with a bunch of kids. I don't know what's in the water in Derby, but we got some stuff going on, and there's kids everywhere. You understand? And so legitimately, we have been blessed, and we have seen all of these kids start coming to the church and all of these families, and we recognize there's this thing that happened. Every time that we've opened up our door for families, some of them stick. It's the weirdest thing. So we started hosting a women's Bible study a couple of years ago, and a bunch of new women came to the church. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but lots of women have kids, right? And all of a sudden, a bunch of them women and husbands and kids started sticking around, and we got a bunch. We started hosting a homeschool group, and there's people in this room right now who are here because they came in through kind of the homeschool group and got to know people and ended up finding a home here. Every time that we open our doors to families, some of them stick. And it's this really cool thing that's happening. And so we decided, what if we actually got purposeful about that? What if we made it a point to make it so that kids always have something to do here? What if we made it a point so that kids always have something to invite their friends to, so that parents have the ability to go to their adult friends and say, my church is doing this really cool thing. Why don't you come check it out? What if we actually took the thing that kind of naturally is happening well, and we actually purposefully decided to move on that? The reality is, whether you like it or not, and some of you may not like it as much as others, but whether you like it or not, we're a kid church. We are a church with families, and I love that. In part because it used to be that my kid was the only kid in the entire preschool class, and he was just sad all the time. But now there's like 1 million kids in that class. And so anyways, we this year are resolving to grow the church through targeted outreach and evangelism in Aviator Kids. Some of the things that are going to be those outreach events are on your sheet right there. I promise you this, I've talked to Nikki, we've already started lining out the calendar. There will not be a month that goes by this year where there's not something in our children's ministry on the calendar. Not 1 month. Some of them will be events for specific grades. Some of them will be for all kids. Some of them will be for you parents who need a break. Like look at the February one. You're welcome in advance, right? But always there will be something happening there. So my question is this. If this is what our plan is, we resolve to grow through targeted outreach and evangelism in Aviator Kids, does it meet the 2 criteria? Does this bring honor to God? I think so. I think Jesus made it abundantly clear his feeling on kids. Remember when the kids were coming up and the disciples tried to say, hey, get away. Like he's busy. He's an important guy. And what did Jesus say? Yeah, get away, kids. I just want to make sure you guys were listening. No, he didn't say that. He said, no, let the kids come to me. He talked about how the kids have the faith of a mustard seed, how he wishes adults had faith like kids did, right? So legitimately, I think that this is something that brings honor to God, because what are we doing in our kids ministry? We're teaching children the gospel. Like, what happens in here is part of Aviator Church. What happens over there is the rest of Aviator Church. And so many of you have not been able to be a part of that, and that's so sad, because it's such a cool thing to watch a kid learn the gospel for the very first time. So, does it bring honor to God? I would say yes. Second question is, are we dependent on God to accomplish it? 100% yes. I don't know if you've ever worked with kids. They're not easy to work with. Did you know that? Kids, I'm going to tell you something about you that you don't know, okay? Sometimes, you're a bit difficult, if I can be honest. Sometimes you guys make messes. Are you aware of that? Sometimes you make things dirty and difficult and trying. Sometimes, did you know that you wear your parents down sometimes? Did you know that? We're going to be completely dependent on God for patience, for grace, for peace, for love, for kindness, for all of those things that are the fruits of the Spirit that we talk about so much. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If you want to work with kids, you need all of those things and more. We are dependent on God to set the stage for us. So how are we going to accomplish this? Kids, you about ready? You've been practicing your puppy dog face? Okay. I'm going to read this slide, and then I'm going to put you guys to work. You ready? Here's how we're going to accomplish this goal. Our goal is to have 90% of our adult members actively serving in children's ministry this year. Now, let me just be real clear. Let me help some of you who are not mathy. 90% means 9 out of every 10. You understand? Which means that if you're like, well, I'm not going to do it, you better make sure that the 9 people around you are committed to make up for you, because otherwise you're in. So kids, here's what I need from you. I need you to look around the room at all of these adults, and I need you to give your best puppy dog face, and I just need you to convey to them that you need adults who are willing to help in children's ministry. Everybody, get your puppy dog face and just show it around. Let me see it. Oh, that's really sad. Adults. Hey, adults, you're not looking at me. You make eye contact with a kid right now. You look at a child who's looking at you right now. Look how sad they are. Oh, I just need someone to teach me about Jesus. Oh, I wish that somebody loved me enough to come to my classroom. Oh. Now, adults, here's the thing. Okay, kids, you can release. The power is overwhelming. I'm starting to feel sad up here. Adults, I got to be honest with you. If you're like, I don't like that, that's mean. I don't care. If you're like, Dave, you're weaponizing the children. Yup. It's 100% what I'm doing. Because this is the thing. At Aviator, I believe very much that right now, our kids are getting bombarded on every single front with all kinds of garbage that is completely dishonest and disingenuine, not genuine. They're getting bombarded with things that are teaching them lies that are absolutely 100% diametrically opposed to the Word of God. And the reality is, if we let culture teach our kids lessons, then we deserve what we get, or we get what we deserve. Right? If we're not willing to step in and say, I'm going to bridge the gap for our children's ministry, I'm going to bridge the gap and teach truth where the world teaches lie, then man, what do we expect the church to be in another generation? The truth is this. We, the church, right? Our time in the sun is right now. But soon, for a lot of us, that sun is going to start fading, and the church is going to be left in the hands of who? The kids who we are teaching the truth right now. The reality is, you don't get an option to sit this one out. I don't like kids. I don't care. Well, Dave, you wouldn't want me around the children. Maybe, but still don't care. You understand? The reality is we don't get the opportunity to sit this one out. So here's the deal. If you're here and you're already involved in children's ministry, raise your hand. First off, everybody, let's give it up. Now, for all of you who didn't raise your hand, I got to tell you, that wasn't 9 out of 10. And so if you're sitting here and you're like, Dave, listen, I really, the kids would not like me. It wouldn't work well. I cannot be with the children. Well, good news. We don't need you with the children. We need people helping out in child check-in right now. It's a computer. Right? And if you tell me, well, Dave, I don't know how to use a computer, I call nonsense because everybody uses computers, right? We can teach you how to click the buttons to use the computer. If you're like, Dave, I don't want to give up my church on Sunday, great. We have events coming every month, and we're going to need volunteers at every single one of them. You're like, Dave, I just don't think that I could teach. Awesome. Be a support person. Man, I'll tell you what, one of the things that Nikki has talked about wanting for so long, and I've seen this work, it's one of my favorite positions in all of children's ministry. If you're here and let's just say you're experienced at being alive, right? You got a lot of experience at life. There is a need for grandma and grandpa in the nursery, right? Grandma and I'll tell you this much, like you can watch little kids screaming all the time. When you have the calming presence of a grandma, grandpa in the nursery, it changes the world. Right? And what a blessing and a ministry to provide that so that mom and dad can put down the screaming child for a second and come and hear the gospel, right? The reality is there's all kinds of spots. I want to wrap up by telling you guys a story. You guys ready for a story? Yeah. Is children's ministry difficult and is it messy and is there problems? 100%, right? Now, let me tell you a fun story. Once upon a time, I was here at church, okay? And there were some people who were doing some stuff after the service, working on rehearsal and whatnot. And we had just got our lobby painted. I don't know if you guys remember, when I first got here, for those of you who've been here for a while, it used to look like a bag of Reese's Pieces out in the lobby. Do you remember that? Everything was orange and brown, and it looked very Reese's Pieces-esque, right? And so we got the lobby painted, and it looked... I walked in and it just made my heart sing. It was beautiful, grays and blues, and it just looks so good. I love that lobby, right? After about maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the paint was done, I walked out after a rehearsal that was happening in here, and I was looking around the room, and if you've ever noticed, we have 2 pillars out in the lobby, right? And on the bottom of those pillars, there's these metal things around them, right? Has anyone ever noticed the huge dent in one of those pillars? Anybody? Yeah. So I walked out after this rehearsal was done, a rehearsal in which my kids and some other kids were running around and playing games and whatever. And on this freshly painted new pillar that looked so beautiful, I noticed a dent. And I looked at, and it's not a little dent, it was like a legit big dent. You can go see it out there after the service, right? It's a big dent. And I looked at it, and I thought, what did my child do that caused such a dent in this pillar, right? And then I looked at it a little closer, and I had a hunch. And I walked back to one of the rooms where we have a thing that's a vestige of a time gone by. I'd like to introduce it to many of you right now. This is called the bye-bye buggy. You know it's called that because right here it says, bye-bye buggy. So anyways, I looked at it, and the dent, I thought, was just about the right height for the front bumper on the bye-bye buggy. And so I walked down the hall, and I got the bye-bye buggy, and I walked it, and I put it right next to the dent, and lo and behold, perfect match. And so I said to my son, son, whom I love, what did you do? I said, baby, do you know what happened to the post out there in the lobby? And he said, oh yeah, so-and-so ran the bye-bye buggy into it. And I said, oh, okay. And I was so happy because so-and-so wasn't in my family. I was like, oh, what a blessing, right? And I said, was everybody okay? And he was like, yep, everybody was fine. And I said, okay. And I honestly, we've talked about it many times, getting that dent fixed. But can I tell you something about that dent? I love that dent. Because every time I see that dent, it reminds me that we're a church and we're here to be proper and pretty and nice, and we got our whole painted lobby and all of this fun stuff, and yet we're a church where life happens and kids happen and things happen. And that dent is a good reminder that when we allow kids to run around and be part of our church, there's going to be dents. There's going to be problems. There's going to be messes. There's going to be issues. And so here's what I'm going to say. If you are willing to give a chance to helping in our children's ministry, we have on our app and on the website a sign up that says, I'm part of the 90% challenge. I want to serve in kids. What happens when you do that is you'll get an automatic email back sent to you with a link on it that has a questionnaire where you can fill it out to be a part of children's ministry. Children's ministry doesn't have to be Sunday mornings. We need people to make copies of lessons during the week and set up craft stations. We need people to do administrative stuff. We need people to set up for events. We need people to decorate the hallways. We need people to do all this stuff. It can be anything that you have skill or talent in. And I'm going to throw out one additional job right now. This bye-bye buggy. First off, kids love it. When you actually use it, kids think this is the coolest thing ever. And I have it on good authority that it corners really well if you're running full speed. But in this bye-bye buggy, there's these seat belts, but they're all broken. And I've seen enough kids fall out of them that the bye-bye buggy has been out of commission for a good long time. And so you may be thinking, Dave, I don't think I can help with kids, but I'm good with my hands and I can figure out how to fix seat belts in a bye-bye buggy. We would love that. You're saying, Dave, I'm not great with kids, but I would love to organize all of the lesson plans during the week. Awesome. We've got a place for you. The reality is this: we are going, whether you like it or not, I'm dragging you kicking and screaming. We are going to invest in our children's ministries without fail. It's what we're going to do. So 9 out of 10 of you, get ready to fill out your application, get ready to fill out your questionnaire, get ready to tell Nikki what skills you might, I don't know, maybe you're the best whistler in the world and Nikki has some way to incorporate whistling into the lesson. I don't know what it's going to be, but there is something that you can do, that you can offer that can help teach kids about Jesus. So, hey, there goes Boaz. Everyone say, bye, Boaz. And his adorable little Bronco hoodie. Kids are loud, kids are messy, let's invest in them. So on the website, on the app, fill out your thing. You'll get a questionnaire to answer the questions to. We are going to track and we are targeting 90%. And by the way, last thing, you may say, Dave, what about you? All you do is preach on Sundays and nothing else. I know. It's the best job ever. I show up 1 hour before church on Sunday, make some stuff up, and then go home, right? It's great. Love my job. I have already committed to Nikki that I will be at every single event that we're doing this year. I am asking you to do a thing that I am going to come alongside you and do. I will champion it. You guys make it work, okay? I'm going to pray, and I'm going to pray over our children's ministry. Kids, I'm praying specifically for you for this year, and I'm praying that your parents and that your aunts and uncles and all of the friends, families that you guys know here are going to look at your sad puppy dog face today and say, I have to get in the game. Let's pray. Father God, I praise you for every boy and girl in this room. God, I praise you for ridiculous things like the bye-bye buggy. I praise you for dents and pretty walls. God, I praise you for the fact that we're a church where life is happening. And God, I ask that you continue to allow us to be a church where life happens, even if it's messy, even if it's difficult. That God, you have obviously blessed Aviator in the area of young families. So God, let us be the best young family church that we can be. God, let parents learn what it means to raise godly children here. God, let kids learn to have a love for your word here. God, let us be a church that reflects your truth, your wisdom, and your incredible goodness. God, let the bye-bye buggy be a thing that makes us an upset 2-year-old love coming here. God, thank you for things like the playground and the bounce houses and all of the fun stuff. God, thank you for the opportunity that you've given us and entrusted us with to teach kids about you. God, help our church to be motivated to do just that. God, we love you and we praise you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.